Welcome to Our Family Stories, a podcast by Global Peace Women. We started this podcast with the hopes that as we share our family stories, the ones that warm our hearts, the ones that make us cry, that we can glean the wisdom and lessons about to build peace in the home. In this episode, we'll be talking about legacies that last through generations. We hope you enjoy. So I'm super stoked to invite our guest of honor today to introduce herself. She's funny, she's wise, she's always in those trenches, helping families and women in the United States and around the world, I'm sure, helping them grow and flourish and sing. So without further ado, can I have you introduce yourself?
Oh, well, I am Rachel Murray, and not only am I a mother and a grandmother, but I'm also, just got a lot of different titles. I'm also a pastor's wife. I support my husband in our ministry at the church, as well as I'm also the Global Peace women's leader for the USA, and also a part of the International Advisory Council for the Global Peace Women. So a lot of different hats. I also work out, at a job. So a lot of different hats that I wear, but I think the one that I love, besides being a wife, would be being a mother and a grandmother. Actually, let's replay that one. And it's just it's the wife, yes, but the mother. And I'm not a grandmother because I feel like I'm too young to be a grandmother. So I'm Mimi. So
Nice. Thank you. Shraddha?
Yes, so my name is Shraddha. It rhymes with Prada. I help share a lot of stories via social media. So I'm currently with Global Peace Women as a social media analyst, content creator, and I'm looking very forward to the session, especially since I've gotten the chance to meet Dr. Murray. Now I'm meeting Mrs. Murray.
Me too. I'm Hanako Ikeno. I work a lot with the content creation of the Global Peace Women public communication side, but like Mrs. Murray, the place that I would boast the most would be a mother of 4. I have 3 sons and 1 daughter, and it's probably the hardest job, right?
Oh, yeah.
But the most fulfilling. It keeps me on my toes every day, but it means that every day I'm learning. So we're always talking about the things that we're learning, the things that we do wrong and right. So that's me, mom of 4. That would be the horn that I like to tout the most. Today, just like Mrs. Murray said, she's Mimi. So you're ahead of us in a few ways, for Shraddha and some for me, in terms of raising families. So Shraddha is single. I'm a mom, but I have 4, and my eldest is still just entering teendom. So we wanted to get some insights from someone who has gone through raising children to adulthood, to get some of the best practices, the lessons that you've garnered through that real life experience, especially, taking your children to the point where they are able to have and raise their own children is very special. So I hope that today you can talk and share a little bit about the legacies and the traditions that you found that are the ones that are lasting, the ones that you would say are the ones we should invest in starting today. So before we go into that, I have a short from Nigeria that I wanted to share. It's called Happy Birthday, Baba, and it's about Grandpa. He turned 100 at the turn of the year, and granddaughter shares a little bit about what he's left as a legacy. So let's take a look, then we can start sharing our own. any initial reactions or stories that kind of sprung up in your mind?
Well, I mean, the minute that I saw as far as grandfather, I have, well, I no longer have any of my grandparents living now. My grandmother just recently passed about a year ago. She was short of reaching her 99th birthday. And although my grandmother in her last days and also in the last years, whatever, of her life, and the one thing that I think that was very powerful with my grandmother is that she never had a bitter bone in her body. Although she went through some probably horrible things from what I've heard and what I've been told. And, she didn't have the upbringing that I was raised in. And so, but to hear her not have, a negative thing to say about anybody, it really makes you look at things and say, for something like that, that's a legacy that she left for me, is that her legacy was that although you may go through difficult situations and hardships in life, doesn't mean that that should define who you are. You are someone who makes whatever situation that you're going through, if you're looking at the glasses half empty, then you're going to be bitter. And, unfortunately, on my grandfather on my mother's side was very bitter because of that type of, the things that he held on to and was never really able to understand and to move past that. But yet my grandmother, although she may not have, I know she didn't agree with everything, there was still something about it that she was not bitter, and she cared for everybody. Looking at that video and Baba, the caring and the compassion, and there was not a bone in my grandmother's body that was not compassionate. And especially I think for us children, that she really tried to invest in us. She did not so much, there was things that within her own children, my mother and my uncles, that I think that she was trying to make up for the how things happened in her life. She didn't maybe be as loving to my mother and to my uncles and the way that she had to us. And so I think sometimes when you go through a situation and grandparents, they go through things in their lives, their children may not reap the benefits so much because of the fact they've learned the lesson. And so when the grandchildren come along, they've learned things. And so they want to try to make the things right that didn't happen for their children. It was a powerful, powerful video. Loved it.
A lot of things from what you just shared, right? Just, the juxtaposition of grandpa and grandma, allowing you to see that to not hold on to bitterness is actually probably the nicer way to live, but that maybe that comes from the fact that she cared so much for those around her, right? And then I love that, I'm hitting my 40s, so I'm starting to think, but the fact that life is long and I'm learning, but I have a redo.
You can redo. No, it's true. I mean, I know that there are things that you do the best that you can do as a parent. You do the best that you can do. There is no book. Well, I shouldn't say there's no book. There are books out there as far as how to parent. Yeah. But guess what? Those books you can go by a guideline and kind of use those as a guide, but you cannot parent your children based off of a book because every child is different. I have 3 other siblings. I have an older brother and an older sister and a younger sister. And, I'm kind of like in that middle child thing. I'm completely different than my other siblings. The same with my 3 children. I have, 2 girls that are the oldest and my son. And they are all different. Of course, you would think that the girls and the boys, yeah, but the girls are completely opposite. I couldn't use a book. So were there things, with our oldest, they always say when you have your first one, it's one of those things where it's like you dote on them, you do everything and blah, 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 the pictures and everything. When your second one comes along, it's, you're still doing, when your third and fourth and whoever else comes along, it's like, and so you kind of take things, you look at how we've raised our first one. And when our second one came along, it's like, okay, there are things I'm going to do different. I'm not going to let, the second one sleep in the bed with me at night, because the first one we did, and then we had a hard time getting, so you take things and learn from them, but it doesn't mean that there are things, now I'm like, okay, would I have done some things differently? Yes, but I can't change what's in the past. So what I just have to work on is how do I go from here and not only still continue to show my children, the ways of, as far as, how to live or how I respond to things. And I think that's more because once your children get out of the home, it's not so much that you're parenting them. It's more the fact that you are showing them and guiding them. And so when they call you and there's things that they're going through, it's how do I respond? Or how do they see me respond to things? If we're going through a situation, how do they see me respond? What am I? And that's, and as parents, as young parents, and even as those that don't have any children, it's one of those things that whenever you start,
little brother.
Oh, little brother. It's one of those things that you look at and say, okay, what do I want to do so that I can learn? And your parents always try to teach you different things, and you never understand. You look at it and go, why am I doing this? Or I don't really want to do that, or blah blah blah. And you think that your parents don't really know anything. And what your parents are trying to do is trying to show you and trying to help you so that you don't make the same mistakes. Not all kids are going to listen to that. So when they get older and as they grow through life and as they start having their children, they begin to realize how smart we are and go, oh my gosh, what my mom said.
You were talking, right?
Like, man, I wish I'd have listened to that a long time ago. I think of that with my parents. I'm like, oh my gosh, I know my parents have probably said that a million times. I'm like, why didn't I get it through my thick head? But that's just the way that we are,
You have to own it through experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny, Hanukkah exposed me with my brother. Being the oldest in my family, I only have one sibling, and he's 15 years old and I'm 24. So there's quite a bit of age gap. And being the oldest responsible child, I find often that I'm actually teaching my younger brother a lot more than my parents are teaching him. Just because our dynamic is that I'm the responsible one, he's the immature, the baby of the house, even though he's already 15 years old. So oftentimes I'm like, I guess it's a it's a blessing in disguise, because I'm not a mom, but I can tell that a lot of these experiences that I have in helping raise my brother is that it's very similar to that of a parent's role. And so from that, I'm very lucky that I'm getting, I guess, my own experiment before officially becoming a mom. But at the same time, sometimes I wish maybe if there wasn't that big of an age gap, I wouldn't have to parent him. Yeah, there's pros and cons from my personal experience, but it's funny that it was brought up.
Yeah.
You mentioned, Mrs. Murray, about the yeah, like watching your reaction as the main tool for education, especially when the kids get older. If we can drill down on some of the other points of wisdom that have translated from parenting to grandparenting, that would be really nice.
I've been blessed to be able to be in both of the homes. It's my oldest daughter has children, has 6 children, and then my our youngest has 1. And so to be able to be in the home, of course, with all the children, with my oldest daughter's children, and just to, I watch as, something, might be said, or, you find it funny because the grandchildren will come to me and be like, Mimi, can I have a snack? And mom and dad are right there. And I'm like, well, did you ask mom and dad? Now, if it was just Mimi by myself at the house, I'd be like, go ahead, have a snack. What, Mimi has all the fun snacks and the different things. And with them, and, it's more or less of, Mimi, can I play your iPad? They want to play the games. With my son's child, I watch him because he's younger. He'll be 2 in September. And I watch how my son has trained him and has worked with him. And, when Mimi's there, he loves for Mimi to go play with him and just thinks it's the greatest thing. And so there, like I said, you have to try to find a fine line of what you're going to say to the children or how you're disciplining them, or, you don't ever want to undermine the parents. And that's something that I work very hard to make sure that I don't. But I want the kids to know that I'm there for them. And so if they ever have any questions, or if they want advice, hey mom, how did you handle something like this? Then I'm there to help. Or there to be with the kids and the grandkids and spoil them rotten. That's really what my job is to spoil them rotten and to
give them back.
Legacy of saying Mimi was the funnest Mimi ever.
Nice. What are some of those like your favorite joint activities to do with both your kids and your grandkids together, the most meaningful ones?
So I think from starting with our children, I think the funnest, the things that we really started doing when they were younger was doing a family vacation. Our lives, my husband and I, sometimes we get very bogged down with everything else that we're doing. And so the number one thing that my father taught and that I grew up with was that family is very important. And it's very important to spend that time and that quality time with your children. That's the legacy that you leave, is because if you're not spending the time with them, what have you left? The children, when you're gone, then the children are like, well, I don't know, my parents always worked or did this or did that. And we don't want that to happen. And so for our family, we like to do family vacations and try to get together to spend that time, to have the fun. Even if it's something where, nowadays, because the fact that, everyone's so spread out, you can't get together all the time. But there's one thing that we really try to do, and we have tried to do before COVID, was every year we would spend, at least a week together or something, doing something that the children wanted to do. And then, as they grew and they have their families, if they're able to join us, then that's great. But we still try to get together if it's not for Thanksgiving or Christmas or a vacation or something, somewhere, putting that time in and investing that time so that we can spend that time together and just have a great time. We could be sitting around the house and playing games or doing something like that. You don't have to spend money to make that legacy and to build that legacy and to leave a lasting legacy. Some of the most memorable times that I have had with not only my children or with my grandchildren or even with my parents and my grandparents is just being together, laughing, doing whatever, just being silly, getting together for those Thanksgiving or Christmas holidays, or, just driving down the street or going to the park or something and just playing. Those type of memories I'll keep forever. And I think that's something that, we all have to work on, because it's not easy. You have to dedicate that time and really plan and say, no, this is the time. And, cell phones off, computers off, no one calls, everything gone.
It's Murray time.
Yeah.
No, I love that. You don't have to spend, well, you have to spend the money to get together, but to be together, it's being present for each other. That's so precious. And I guess that's what we're giving each other, right? The time, the intentional time to each other, that investment to be allowed to.
Hanako, you just said something. Sorry to interrupt you, but you just said something. It's being present. It's being present in the moment. It's being right there. There's one thing that we started, was that we started family Zoom. So every Sunday we get together, every Sunday afternoon, family Zoom time. It's the entire family. It's my brother, my sister, my two sisters, their families, the grandkids, everybody has the Zoom link. We get on, we chat, see how everyone's doing. There are some Sundays that not everyone's on. There's maybe a couple of 3 or 4 or 5, or some Sundays we've got everybody on, so it doesn't matter, but everyone knows this is the time that we're together. But I think those type of things are legacies that we can leave behind, because knowing that no matter what, we're there. And no matter what, we were there, or we wanted to, participate and to share our love. I've sent other gifts to my sister. She is a grandmother, and she is actually raising 4 of her grandchildren. Wow. And there have been times when, on family Zoom, a couple of them, one of them, he's really cute. He says, Aunt Rachel, you got any presents? And I'm like, well, no, I don't have any presents. Well, Aunt Rachel, where's my present? So there's been times when just out of the blue, I've got on Amazon and ordered something and sent it to him, just for him to be able to take something and unwrap it and I got a present, So it's little things like that. I mean, I do that for my grandchildren anyway now, but it's showing that you care. Because that's really, I think that's deep down inside, each one of us want to know that we have someone that cares for us.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah. Yes, I think that's been my recent realization, right? How precious family is, because we were given people who will always tell us they care. No matter what point in our lives or our situation, there will be people who will say, you matter, you're precious, you're so special. I will spend the time, I will spend the money. You matter. That's family.
Right.
So, and then when you have grandparents, it's you matter for eternity.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, in terms of grandparenting, I think we talked, or actually it became a mix, parenting and grandparenting. But setting those intentional legacies, right? Whether it's the Sunday Zoom call or the family vacation, or the checking in regularly, to make sure that we affirm that we were gifted to each other, to care for each other through our lives, and to make sure that we know that we are precious. That's really nice. So we'll close out the first section, but if anyone has closing thoughts, I'll lead off with Shraddha, and then Mrs. Murray, you can close out with your final thoughts on making these legacies of love. Shraddha.
I think for me, because I haven't gotten the experience of exactly being a mom or a grandmother, there's a lot for me to learn. And just from hearing your experiences, I already have a grasp as to what to look out for. But it was really nice to just hear and be able to relate to some degree on how grandparents think, how mothers think. And from the children's side, I'm able to voice my opinion because I've experienced that more. But also from the parenting side, I can understand the struggles and all of the struggles, benefits, and all of the things that have yet to come. And I'm just thankful for your advice and your stories. And that's all I can say.
Me too. Thank you. The points that really matter, right? Sometimes I think we invest in the wrong things, but we've got to make sure we cover the essentials. For in my case, it's for my kids, so that I can get grandkids eventually. So, but yes, a few parting words on this topic from.
So I think, we're talking about legacy and things like that. I think the one thing that I do want to make sure that, everyone is given a foundation. No matter what type of foundation that's laid, everybody has a foundation. It's up to each individual, whether it be a mother, father, daughter, son, whatever, to build upon that foundation. And some of the things that I think are extremely important in building upon the foundation that you have been given is to make sure that you're building with integrity. There's respect. You have that servant leadership. You want to serve. There's humility. There's compassion, kindness, making sure that whatever you do, the biggest thing that I want to make sure, no matter what is said or what I've done, the biggest thing in my legacy that I want to make sure that I leave for not only my children and my grandchildren, but also for those around me is that, for my children and my grandchildren, I want them to be able to say mom or Mimi or, with someone who served and cared deeply, not for them, not only for them, but also for others. And that, I was hardworking. I loved deeply, and always looked at the glass as half full versus as half empty, and making sure that others around me knew that they were loved, and that I would do anything for them. I want my legacy to be that she was someone who stood for truth, stood upon her foundation. It wasn't based upon what she was taught, although yes, the foundation was what she was taught, but she took upon herself and just began to build upon that foundation to make it even sturdier and to stand firm so that she could teach the values and the things that we wanted to teach to her children and to her grandchildren and to those around her. So leave a positive legacy for those around you.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And then empowering, because where does it start? It starts from my personal choices, my personal response to situations, this optimism that you talked about, and this commitment to always serve and to love. What a beautiful building you are building. And that I'm
trying.
it's a foundation, right? I mean, as you were describing it, I was like, wow, it's your grandparents left you something, and then your parents left you something, and now you're building something upon that, and your children will build something, and your children's children will lead something.
Right.
It makes you think twice about the types of things that you do every day.
Doesn't work like that. You might as well just let it go and just understand that, hey, things happen to those that are good. Things happen to those, good things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people, and bad things happen to good people, and bad things happen to bad people. It doesn't matter who you are or what situation you're in. In every situation, always look at it and say, okay, I know that this is not maybe the most positive situation that may be in my life right now, but how can I move forward, and how can I show my children and my grandchildren? The most important thing, how can I show them when they go through life and when they go through difficulties, what is it that I can teach them to say, okay, it doesn't matter, let's move forward, we can make it through, because we have each other. When you have family, when you're brought together, family is everything. And I know that there's sometimes some people, they don't have the strong families together. And that's where it doesn't matter if you are blood related or if there's somebody else that you pull into your family, that's family. And people that you meet and people that you come across with, just like you guys with me, you're family. So when you hurt, I hurt. When you're happy, I'm happy. And that's how it is. Pay it forward, give it, do something for someone else and show them that, hey, I love you. You're a part of my family.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. Make sure to subscribe and tune in next time.